Okay, let's go over this Geometry Test 5B that covers lessons 5.4 through 5.5. On the first four questions, it says that the quadrilateral, HIJK, so this quadrilateral, is a rhombus. Classify each statement as must be true or not necessarily true. I'm going to use either true or false for my answers. That means the same thing. So remember our notes that we had for 5-4. When you have a rhombus, review these things that are checked. Well, if we have a rhombus, number 1 says that angle HIJ, so this angle, has to be congruent to JKH. And that is true. Number 1 is true because opposite angles are congruent. Opposite angles would be congruent. So number 1 is true. Number 2 says that angle IHJ, this angle, is congruent to let me start over on that one. I marked the wrong angle. I'm on number 2 here. It's IHJ. IHJ, this angle, is congruent to KHJ. KHJ, so it's this angle. That would also be true because, again, we have a rhombus, and we have a rule that says the diagonal bisects the angles. So these two half angles are congruent. They're being bisected. So number 2 is true. Number 3 says that IK, this diagonal, is congruent to HJ. So are the diagonals congruent in a rhombus? And that is a no. So number 3 is a false. Number 4 says that IM, this little piece, is congruent to that little piece. In other words, do the diagonals bisect each other? And that is true for a rhombus. So number 4 is true. With the next ones, now we have a different quadrilateral, RSTV, and it says it's a rectangle. Classify each statement as must be true or not necessarily true. So in other words, true or false. So number 5, RT, so this diagonal, is congruent to VS, and that is a true statement. Number 5 is true because with a rectangle, the diagonals are congruent. Number 6, RT, so this first diagonal, is perpendicular to VS. So number 6, are the diagonals of a rectangle perpendicular? And that is a no. So number 6 is a false, or not necessarily true. Number 7, TR. So this ray, TR, bisects angle VTS. In other words, is this half angle congruent to this half angle? So with a rectangle, do my diagonals bisect an angle? That is a no. Number 7 is not necessarily true. Number 8, RX, so this little half diagonal, congruent to that little half diagonal, TX. So do the diagonals bisect each other in a rectangle? And that is true. So number 8 has to be true. Number 9 says that MN is the median. The median means that M is a midpoint and M is a midpoint. So it means this is congruent to that and this is congruent to that. N and M are midpoints. So if DN is 5, NC is also 5, and the length from C to D would have to equal 10. 5 plus 5 is 10. Keep going. Number 11. If the measure of angle D is 100, then what's the measure of angle DNM? DNM is this angle. That would have to be 80, because this is parallel to that, making this a transversal. So these two angles, this 100 and this answer of 80, would be supplementary. By definition, they are same side interior angles. So number 10 is 80. I'm going to go to a different one. Then when I'm ready for number 11. If AD is 12 and BC is 20, what's the length of my median? Or what's halfway between 12 and 20? In other words, 12 plus 20 divided by 2, 32 divided by 2, that would be 16. So the answer to number 11 is 16. Again, average the 12 and the 20. Number 12, if MN is 7.5 and BC is 9, then what's AD? Well, if it goes down 1.5, this would have to be a 6. So my answer to number 12 is 6, because it says my median is 7.5. The longer side is 9, so this side has to be 6. And to check that, you would say 6 plus 9, that's 15. 15 divided by 2 is this 7.5. Number 13, if triangle ABCD is isosceles, which means this leg is congruent to this leg, and the measure of angle D is 100, what's the measure of angle A? Well, that would be 100 also. Some of you put 80, but these angles up here are 80. So answer to number 13 is 100. Then number 14, if trapezoid ABC is isosceles and length DN is X, what's AB? Well, if it's isosceles, this is a midpoint, that's X. This is a midpoint, but also this side is X and X, so this side would also be X and X. So what's the length from A all the way to B? It's X plus X, or just write that as 2X. Number 14 is 2X. At the bottom, number 15, use the given information to tell whether parallelogram QRST is best described as a rectangle, rhombus, or square. Now some of you will put, or did put, parallelogram. That's not one of my choices. Rectangle, rhombus, or square. Number 15. 15, if QS, this diagonal, is congruent to the other diagonal, my diagonals are congruent. That means I would have a rectangle. Number 15 is rectangle. Diagonals are congruent. I don't know if it's a rhombus, because I don't know if all four sides are the same. I don't know if it's a square, because I don't know if all four sides are congruent. So number 15 is rectangle. 16. QS is congruent to RT, so my diagonals are congruent, but also the diagonals right here are perpendicular. So when are the diagonals congruent and perpendicular? That means number 16 has to be a square because of perpendicular. 17. My diagonals, no, my QR and RS. QR, RS. So this is a right angle, which means number 17 is a rectangle. I don't know if it's a square because I don't know if the other four sides are all congruent. So 17, rectangle. Clean paper. 18. Angle 1 and 2 are congruent. This angle is congruent to that angle. And 3 and 4 are congruent. And that means the diagonals bisect the angles. When the diagonals bisect two angles, that leaves me with a rhombus. Again, it could be a square, but I don't know that all four sides are congruent. 18, rhombus. Two more. Number 19. In triangle ABC at the right, so this picture, what's the length of MC? Well, remember the rule that said if that's a midpoint, and it is, because tick mark and tick mark, then I can put the same tick mark there. Well, if the 10 is the whole length, that means that's 5 and that's 5. So then MC, that length, would also be 5. So number 19's answer is 5. Then, my last problem, what is the measure of angle ACM? What is the measure of this angle? And you need to look at this triangle and see that it's isosceles. This triangle, isosceles, because of that tick mark and that tick mark. Because it's isosceles, that's 53, so this angle is 53. So if the entire big angle is 90, I take 90, subtract 53, that leaves me with this answer, which is 37. Again, the 90 minus this 53 is 57, and that's my answer for number 20.